Are you okay if we just do this?
Yeah, that's all right.
Sorry about that. Yes, it's a little bit strange for you. I'm a little bit more like all my experience has been in the university, so I'm a little bit more like a university lecturer than Kate. So this topic is about, as you can see, about interviewing. And there's a few PowerPoints here. The PowerPoints, I usually put the PowerPoints, you've got them there, that's good, got them easy up. So the interviews come as part of the process. It goes something like recruiting, selection, interviewing is one method of selection.
Yeah.
And so it's not the only method of selection, but it's probably one of the most important ones. And what we're trying to do is to get ourselves some information about the person who wants to come and work for us and see if we think they will be suitable. The person that's come gets some information about the organisation that we work for, and when the interviewing is done and the other selection methods are done, then is when we start a contract or an employment agreement. So we're saying here it's sensible to use more than one method, not just an interview. The interview one is probably the most important, but there are many other methods. This is just a little warning that says people always, of course, try to make themselves look perfect when they are filling out an employment form. And these are just some comments that people say. If an interviewer is saying something like that, then this is perhaps what they really do. And so we're using that. Sometimes you can say, if they're saying, I'm adaptable, they might have changed jobs a lot. Or if they say, I'm on the go, I'm never at my desk. There are some questions, of course, that we can't ask. And we'll talk more about those a little bit later. So you can't ask a person if they have ever been arrested for stealing. And then sometimes there are other ones that you really sometimes I get a question like this: you and your manager will need to attend together. Does overnight and weekend travel present a problem for you? Or you might feel uneasy about that, of course.
So the interviewee can say she's not comfortable to answer the question,
Yes.
or
Yes,
just
of
don't
course.
answer the question.
Yes. That's fair. Yes. If you're asked to lift something heavy, you got to be careful how you ask that question to the person. Would your husband or would you be willing to relocate? So if you were sitting and going for a job, somebody might say, would you be prepared to relocate to Christchurch? You can probably ask that one. And then it says, if this job required you to be fluent in Spanish, then are you fluent in Spanish? And maybe you'd have to be careful how you ask that one. So that's just a few examples there. So if we go to this handout now, what I'll do with these, if it's okay with you, I'll go through these handouts with you,
Yeah.
and then you can read them yourself, because it's quite a lot.
Okay.
And then next week, we will talk with you and Janice, if she's coming, more about what is in this that will also be in your assessment. So
Okay.
that will help you to focus on the assessment. Okay?
Yeah.
So if we go to this one that's got...
The
yeah,
other one.
That's good. And if we keep turning, go past the PowerPoints. And the first one is just that short one there.
Oh. This one.
Yeah, okay. So this person is saying that the interview often is a lot of talk,
It is.
isn't it?
Definitely.
Yes. And sometimes, of course, if you are applying for a job, you don't know what they're going to ask you, and it can be quite difficult. Sometimes when employers are talking to you about a job as part of the interview, they talk too much and say an awful lot about their organisation, and they almost forget that they're talking to you to find out there's a job. This little short piece of the article is also saying that you can be quite careful doing an interview, but it still doesn't really increase your chances of being getting a successful employee. It's actually saying, turn the page. I'll try and explain that sheet for you. So what this sheet is saying, down the left-hand side, left-hand column all the way down, there's these different forms of what they're calling predictor, which is saying the method a method we could use to find out about a person who we are interviewing. So the first one is cognitive ability, which is quite long words, but that means their ability to think and do things like that. The next column there where it says validity, if you just used cognitive ability questions, the chances of you getting a successful appointment would only be 0.51 or a half.
Oh, is that 51%?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
There are some others there. The work sample tests, that's where they give a person a little problem to do or something like that at the interview. The next ones they talk about are structured interviews. That means when the interview is carefully planned out and all the questions are written. You go through them. We must look at those a little bit later. So if you look down those lists, there's all sorts of ways of doing them. And so the best ones are this business of test for cognitive ability, work sample tests, structured interviews, peer ratings, that's some information you might be able to get from the person's peers, and the job knowledge tests, and so on. The next column, figures, show us if we use more than one of these methods, how much will this improve our chances? So we start with the cognitive ability one each time, and then if we added work sample tests, we would increase our chances of getting a good person to 63%. And so on. Now the main point is it's quite frustrating at times to think about this, that if we are interviewing people and we don't know the people particularly well, at around about between sort of 50 and 60%, you could flip a coin. It's the same thing. It's a 50-50 odds. It's a 50% chance you could get it wrong, a 50% chance it might work. So it really just emphasises to us how you can't really put too much reliance on these sort of methods. Excuse me, I'll just check that machine is going, because sometimes it doesn't always start for us, but it is. It is going. Excellent. So turning the page, then we look at quite a complicated page, which is talking about interview skills for employers and managers, saying hiring new employees is a gamble, but if you can create a system of recruiting and interviewing and so on, the chance that you might get a better chance. So the first point they're making is we are looking to make sure there is a job match between the job we want done and the skills and people characteristics that we think will match this job. Then the second half of the page has got a whole heap of questions, excuse me, which they're saying could be used in any interview. And they should be asked in every interview. So you can read those, all the different questions that they're saying could be answered. They could be asked. If you go to a lot of interviews, sometimes they will say, what do you think one of your strengths? What are you good at? And then they might say, what is something you could improve? So that's in there. Work history. And so on. Then there's a little shorter article here. And there. Where this person, she is suggesting things we can ask to talk about what motivates a person applying for a job, because it's important that they be motivated. So describing a work environment where you are most productive and happy, that's a question you could ask. Further down, you could say, what goals, including career goals, have you set for your life? A long, long time ago, when I was a lot younger, I went for a job, and one of the questions was, what is your goal? What is your future goal? Or something like that. And I said, I would like to be a boss person by the time I am age 40.
That's very specific.
Yes, sounded good, didn't it?
I have a friend. She went to an interview in New World.
Yes.
And it was Victoria, the owner
Yes.
of New World, who
Yes.
did the interview.
Yes.
And she asked her, because she just came from the Philippines,
Oh, yeah.
and she didn't know anyone And when she was asked, in 5 years' time, how do you see yourself? Something like that. And she
Yes.
said, I see myself as someone running this place.
Ah. So what did Victoria say to that?
And Victoria said, oh, you're funny. But you didn't know that Victoria is the owner?
No, no, that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes when there's an owner, you really can't say that.
Yeah.
That's right. So that's talking about motivation. A little bit further down, it's reminding us that we are trying to find out what motivates the person we are interviewing. You don't want to hire a candidate who likes working alone for a customer service job, of course. Next page is where they will often ask about interpersonal skills. Now, if you go for a job, and sometimes in the application form and everything, they will talk about this must have good interpersonal skills. So that means they get on with people one-to-one or with a group or something like that. And so there's quite a list of questions there they suggest you could ask to cover this. Then communication. Everybody wants to know about communication. They always say must have good communication skills. That's right. And they try, there's another whole lot of questions there that you can ask. That one about 1, 2, 3, 4 is quite good, where it says rate your communication skills on a scale of 1 to 10. And give some examples from your past work experience. That would be quite a good one.
Does it affect when you ask for communication skills and you are interviewing someone who is from a country who doesn't speak English well? Does it, because there's this human right thing.
Yes, yes, of course.
Does it?
It's, I understand that it is reasonable to look for and select on the basis of English speaking if it's in a job dealing with people a lot, because if that's the case, they couldn't be understood.
Yeah.
The people couldn't talk to you and you couldn't talk to the people. But sometimes, like for instance, if it was an office or an accounting job, then they might not have to do very much communicating, just doing the work, the invoices and the things. So sometimes they might do it that way. Because Filipinos and Chinese and people like that are very, very good with calculators and numbers and everything. Better than most New Zealanders.
Isn't it? I just noticed that when Filipinos start coming for the building
Yes.
thing in Christchurch,
Yes, yes.
and I think the employers put more weight on the skill and
Yes.
not the English communication.
Yes, they have to be a little bit careful that they can understand some English because of safety and doing something the right way,
Yeah.
so that the booking doesn't fall down. Yeah. That's quite difficult, isn't it? We worked in China, we could speak Chinese, of course, so, but they wanted us for their English, I think. Yeah. So then there's another article, this one here, that's got interviewing more. some suggestions. Make the interview reasonably informal, relaxed, not too stiff and proper. Ask questions carefully so that people understand what you are saying. Then this article has about halfway down, it has quite a lot of questions. First one, coping questions. So this is asking if a person can solve problems not too badly. And then there's some questions there asking for examples. The next one down is for tolerance. Is the person able to be a little bit patient or deal with something that's going wrong? Then decisive. Can people make decisions quickly and take actions? Some questions for that one. There's a lot here. Spoken communication. Can the person clearly present information? And what we call energizing questions. Are they energetic? Do you know what I mean by energetic? Full of energy.
Yeah, I had an office, she's full of energy.
Yeah.
So if she's not in the office, it feels like no one's in there.
Nobody's here, right? That's good. And sometimes these days, in these times, there's a lot more policy and procedures that we have to do in our work usually. And then also problem solving. And they keep on going. Goal setting, commitment to task, and then some more questions. Now these are just lots and lots of questions that people can ask. They wouldn't ever do all of them.
Yeah.
It's just suggestions. Then there's for talking about, the next heading goes there, interviewing questions for salespeople. And then the closing question. A lot of people go to a interview who don't have an answer to this question because why should I hire you over all the other candidates? So what's different about you that should make me hire you? So if you have 4 or 5 people that you're bringing in for interviews and they've all got a diploma in business and they're all female and they're all quite good communicators and you said, then you're really saying, well, which one am I going to choose? And so this question is saying, why you? Why will I choose you?
Some interviewers do the other way around. Why should I not hire you?
Yeah.
How would you answer that question?
Why should I not hire you? It's not a very good question, is it? Really, very good. But the only thing is, if you had something you could possibly say, you might say something like, if you, perhaps you might not want to hire me if I said I was going to ask for extra holidays or something like that. It's a very hard question to answer.
Some other people said, I might be too overqualified for you.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't answer that way. I'd say you might be, but I wouldn't say you were. Then they've got a list of illegal questions, but these are illegal in the US. And then they've got some suggestions about what people are looking for if they want to come to your company. Sometimes at an interview, they will always say, "Have you got any questions?" You know, when you get, and the experts always say you must always ask at least one or two questions. Don't just say, "Oh no, nothing."
Yeah. They say that if you ask questions, they think that you are really interested.
Yes, yeah. And it's one way of showing them you know something about their company too, isn't it? Now the next page has got almost a complete page. It says 9 pitfalls of employment interviews. The things that can make them not work so well. So there's personal attitudes. So you could say, like if I went for a job in Christchurch, for instance, at the company, somebody might feel, oh, they've only come from the West Coast, they won't know enough, you know, or something like that. So that would be a personal attitude, which it may not be right, it might be quite wrong, but it's their attitude, and that's how they'll do it.
It's like they already judged you.
Yeah, they're already judged you, yes, yes. Sometimes they say in that people interviewing, they're a wee bit worried they're not going to get anybody, so they take one that perhaps they should have, did things like this.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens. And sometimes interviewers talk too much when they're interviewing.
Especially if it's a panel interview.
Oh, yes.
It takes so long.
Yes, yes, yes. They all seem to have to do their thing, don't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
I had an interview with 3 people for this job. It went for about 50 minutes.
Yeah, it's a long time.
It is
It's a long time. Yeah. Tis. So, there's a list of 8 or 9 things there that can make an interview go wrong. So, that's something to read later on, perhaps, too. I think, I haven't actually seen your assessment, but I think it will probably, it's the sort of thing they might ask, is what are some of the weaknesses of the interview method, or something like that.
Yes,
So, is your assessment there, is it?
yeah.
You might have found where we look.
I have a copy. That's so there's a case.
Yes, I see, yes. Yes, so this is where it sort of comes up. It says here, 4 different recruitment methods. So you might choose interviewing, but then you would have to say something about how good each method is and what the advantages and disadvantages are. Yeah. So that piece that we've just been looking at.
Yeah. It was June. It's the second.
Yes, so we are.
Right. So it's
Good. We will, I'll go over that more with you next week,
okay.
and hopefully the other people are here. some more information on improper questions, but we've already seen most of those. Same sort of things. Improper and illegal ones. Now the next piece here is actually a little bit complicated because there's a lot of words and a lot of things. Now this is talking about what they call structured behavioural interviews. And they're used to try and get rid of some of the problems of unstructured interviews. They're trying to get rid of bias in people's personal thoughts. And so there's a list there of what are the strengths of the structured interview. So if in your assessment you were saying a structured interview would be a good idea, then those would be some of the strengths. And it also gives you, across to the next page, some types of interview questions. And there's pages and pages of them. So I will let you read them, but the one thing I want to show you is down the bottom of the page, they sometimes use rating scales of 1 to 5, if you can see down the bottom. And so if they're doing this, they will, for number 5, they will be asking a question, and if you gave them exactly right answer, you would get 5 points. If you gave them a don't know answer, you only get 1. That's what that's saying. And they call those rating scales. So they just keep on going, and they go on and on and on with different questions and different answers. And then they come to this business where they talk more about rating scales, developing rating scales. Yeah. So this is just what we were talking about before. This is saying where you have to decide how, if you're going to use a 1 to 5 rating scale, what is your top, what do you expect for the top mark, and then what you might expect about halfway down, and then what you would say is a poor answer. I'm not so keen on 5 rating scales because 5 always has a halfway and 3. So you get 1 or 2, 3's halfway, 4 or 5. People often go for the halfway. Better to have it 4 and then there's no halfway.
Can you use rating scales when asking for behavioral questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's quite difficult to do this, but you have to say for number 5 what sort of behaviour you are really wanting, and suggesting what it would be. It might be, you might have words like must be able to think independently, must be proactive, in other words, do things, and so on. it's talking about using an interview panel over the page, like you did when you went for your interview. You had 3 people on the panel.
Yeah.
They do that. They do that to remove what they call personal bias. I mean, it was supposing that I was just the one interviewing you, and I had in my mind something about a person I was looking for, and that would be a personal bias. But if you have a panel, I'm only a little part of it. I'm not the whole thing. What I've seen, you can tell me if this is what happened with your panel. Sometimes when you have a panel, they all have, they started out with a list of questions they want to ask the person, and they divide the questions up, and they say, you can do question 1, 7 and 9, and you can do, and they're so busy trying to look at the next question they're going to ask you that they're not really listening for answers, and they don't seem to give themselves any chance to ask another question that might have come from what they said.
The interviewer had, I think, they divided the questions,
Yes.
but it's more of like someone is in charge with the question regarding communication.
Ah, yes.
Someone is in charge
Right.
with the behavioral. So there's 3 different areas that each of them ask. But the manager took, like, he's the one who took almost
Yeah.
the time.
Yes, that happens.
the
The other ones just sit there. The most I haven't had many job interviews, but the most I've had was 9, I think, on a panel. A whole group.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Oh,
Too
that
many.
would be so uncomfortable. Like,
Sorry?
so they would ask everyone the same question.
Well, they asked questions. They did a little bit like you said. They had obviously had, like, one person was going to ask about, say, finance, and one person was going to ask maybe about sales, or so they did that. It was longer than 1 hour. Now, if we have a look at Kate's, the other information from Kate, I'll just again, I'll show you what this is. Now, these ones are talking, first of all, there's the PowerPoint ones, talking about what a job interview does, which is the sort of thing we mentioned before. Then she talks about improving validity and reliability of the job interview. So this is telling us something about a structured job interview. Structure the interview to focus on requirements of the job or the organisation. Use a panel of trained interviewers. So that's what that's saying. Then they're talking about interview types, structured and unstructured. Then especially structured. And then the stages of a job interview. Some planning, getting the interview started, and so on. Then some types of questions, the next 2 PowerPoints on that page, have types of questions. So you can say that open questions usually mean you are asking for an opinion or describing something. A closed question usually can be answered with a yes or a no. Like, have you passed diploma in business? Yes or no? No opinion.
Yeah.
Then, that's her last PowerPoint for the induction, that being the next stage after a job. Then she's, I must have put these the wrong way around, I'm sorry. I missed a page there by the look of it. There's a page there that has the scoring process and possible interview problems. And then a whole great big handout on structured interviews, another one. So that's like a very good handbook almost about how to do structured interviews, preparing for them. What to do during an interview. And after the interview. And then they've got this model of the whole process. Now I have one or two little video clips I can show you, I think. Might just add a wee piece for you. This is what someone else is thinking about it.
For employers, it's really important that going into a skills shortage market, a tough market, them to find the best candidates, that they are going to be on display during the job hunting cycle. Candidates talk to other candidates. So they need to be courteous, they need to have good communication, they need to be on time for interviews, and they need to be prepared. It's no good to just turn up on the day and wing it. Talk to staff, talk to people that will interact with the person who will get the role, and find out what is important to them. So do a whole 360, and then come up with structured questions. If you move off that question, that's fine. But you need to have those questions that will help you assess whether that person is really right for the role.
I would take a four sort of step approach to the interview, an agenda if you like, and the first step would be to build rapport. A lot of interviewers think they have to go in and be kind of quite hard in the interview. But the truth is, if you get the candidate relaxed, you're going to see much more the real candidate and the real style of them, which will give you a much better indication of whether they are the right person for the role. So go in and build a little bit of rapport before you start the interview. Step number 2 would be to ask the questions, and for that you want to go through their resume in chronological order and get a real feel for the achievements they've had and check why they've left every position and really delve there, because they may have some issues that they're looking to hide, so be sure of that. And also then ask them some behavioural questions around some of the key behavioural competencies that you're looking for. The third step is to allow the candidate to ask you some questions, and this is your opportunity to judge how well the candidate has prepared and to see what kind of thinking the candidate has. And answer those questions truthfully. Your job is to sell the company and to sell the job to the candidate. Even if you don't like that candidate, they're going to tell their friends, they're going to tell the public that that's where they've been interviewing. So you want them going out with a positive image of you and your organisation. So do talk truthfully and honestly and passionately about the role of the organisation. And the fourth step in the interview process is to really close it off. Give the candidate a good sense of what the steps are from here. Give the candidate some honest feedback if you feel comfortable to do that, both positive and perhaps a little bit of constructive criticism that they can work on. But do give them an indication of the timelines that they can expect to hear back from, and then stick to those indications.
Once you've identified a candidate that you wish to interview them and move them through the process as smartly and as quickly as you can. Also bear in mind that you're more than likely not the only person that's interviewing that candidate if you're looking for strong talent. So making sure that you are also selling your organisation from the minute they walk in that door. Don't keep them waiting if they are on time. Make sure that you have got an interview room prepared and ready to interview. Have your questions prepared as well. And also explain the process. People don't like uncertainty, and the more that they can know upfront, the better for everyone involved. And then also secondly, not everyone that you interview is going to be suitable for your role, and how you disengage with that candidate is just as important as how you first engage with them. So, let them know that they weren't successful as soon as you possibly can, so they walk away from your organisation with a positive image rather than one that they will never apply for another role, because you may want to revisit that candidate in the future.
One of the most common mistakes employer makes when they're interviewing a candidate is to go in and do all the talking themselves. So my tip would be to make sure that you listen as much as you talk, and that you really get an understanding of what it is that motivates the candidate, so you can judge whether this is the right position for them as much as they're the right candidate for you.
The other thing is reference checking. It's amazing how many people don't do good reference checking. If somebody's given you a mobile phone number for a referee, ask them for a landline. Go through the switchboard. Make sure you can check the person's name and title and their area of responsibility before you talk to them. And have a few good, well-prepared questions, because you're taking up the time of the referee. So don't muck them about, be really clear, be grateful, and use that time well.
How to interview a job candidate. An applicant may look like the ideal job candidate on paper, but you need a face-to-face interview to get a sense of whether this is the right person for the job. You will need a job description, experience questions, style questions, and behavior questions. Optional, a fact sheet and references. Step 1. Start the interview by introducing yourself, giving the candidate a description of the job and your company, and telling them how the interview process will be carried out. Give the candidate a fact sheet about your company. List statistics that might be of interest to the person who will be filling the position. Step 2. Ask the job candidate to tell you about themselves and to explain why they're interested in the job. Step 3. Ask the candidate questions about their experience and how their past experiences can be applied to the job. Ask about recent accomplishments, projects, group work, and critical decisions. Avoid asking questions that require a simple yes or no answer. These won't give you much insight into the candidate. Step 4. Learn about the candidate's style of working to help you figure out if they will fit into your work environment. Ask about what they enjoy and dislike about their current or past jobs. Step 5. Ask questions that can help you learn more about the candidate's temperament and behavior in specific situations. Learn how they reacted when their work was criticized, or how they managed difficult employees. Call your candidate's references and confirm the information they gave on their resume and in the interview. Step 6. Don't ask the candidate questions about their age, race, religion, disabilities, marital status, or other topics that are not directly related to the job. Step 7. Wrap up the interview by allowing the candidate to ask you questions about the job or company. Let the candidate know the next steps in the process and when they can expect to hear from you. Step 8. Think about how the candidate will perform and how they will fit into your company, and select the best candidate for the job. Did you know? The U.S. Commerce Department's Minority Business Development Agency estimates that minority-owned businesses employed 5.9 million people in 2007.
Sometimes people say that you can pick if a person is going to be any good in the first 5 minutes that you know them. You watch them come in and sit down. And sometimes people say you only actually need 2 questions. You ask them for a CV, so it's all there, and you, as they come in, you form an impression. And sometimes people say there's only 2 questions. question 1 is, tell me something about yourself. And question 2 is, why should I hire you? I'm meeting 10 people, so why are you going to be better than the other 9? Do you reckon that works?
That would really be pressure to the candidate.
Yeah. It's, you see, when you read that you've only got not much more than a 50% chance of getting it right, you start to say to yourself, well, why go through all those things? Why don't we try it? And some people that I've known, they say they don't take too much notice of doing too many questions. They get what they call a gut feeling, how they feel about them. That, of course, is quite dangerous.
Yeah, how about it? It's our own gut feeling.
Yes, that's right.
How about it? If the interviewee has already an interaction with the candidate before.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's when you have to. That's when a proper structured interview becomes quite good. If somebody it might be somebody that's working in your organisation knows them or something like that.
Yeah.
That's true. I'll play you one more little clip. It's a silly one. It's not particularly serious.
You know, I really enjoy interviewing applicants for this management training course. Go in.
It's not Filipino language here, is it? Might be Spanish.
Yeah, it looks like Spanish.
Would you mind just standing up again for 1 moment? Take a seat. Sorry? Take a seat.
This is quite old. He was a famous
Morning.
comedian, John Cleese.
Good morning. Morning. Do it. Why would you say good morning when you know perfectly well that it's afternoon? Well, you said good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Oh, yeah. Good evening. Goodbye.
What?
Now. Aren't you never asked me why I rang the bell?
Why did you ring the bell?
Why do you think I rang the bell? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Well, I'm too late.
Good night. Ding, 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 ding. Good night. Ding, 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 ding.
That doesn't mean I could have walked out already.
This is the interview for the management training course, is it?
Yes, yes, it is.
Oh.
Good night. Ding, ding, ding.
I don't think I'm doing very well.
Why do you say that?
Well, I don't know.
Do you say it because you didn't know?
Well,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Right.
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Oh, why do you think I did that then?
Well, I don't know.
Aren't you curious?
Well, yes.
Oh, why don't you ask me?
Well,
Name?
what?
Your name, please, your name.
David.
David. Shaw?
Oh, yes.
David Shaw.
No, Thomas.
Thomas Shaw.
No, David Thomas.
Good night.
Oh, they went back to that again. I don't know what to do when you do that.
Well, do something. Good night. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good.
Good.
You've got very good marks.
Well, I don't care. I want to know what's going on. I think you're deliberately trying to humiliate people. I'm going straight out of here, and I'm going to tell the police exactly what you do to people. And I'm going to make bloody sure that you never do this again. There! What do you think of that? What do you think of that?
Very good marks.
Oh, well, do I get the job?
Well, I'm afraid not. I'm afraid all the vacancies were filled several weeks ago.
That's very good.
Did you ever hear the television program Faulty Towers, where he had the hotel? No, that was him.
I have watched a clip about Indian interviewer,
Oh, yes.
and in the first thing he asked all the candidates is to write something on the board.
Oh, yes.
Have you seen that?
No.
Write something, and everyone was writing anything that they want, and there's one candidate that really went to the board and write something, the word something. He was hired.
Oh,
So write something.
oh, that's clever. Right. Now, I think, Jemima, I'm probably going to stop there. I've given
Yeah.
everything there, and then I'll be having a wee talk to Kate about the assessment coming up. So next week I'll talk to you and Janice if she's here
Okay.
about putting this together with the assessment
Yeah.
and the other things. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Just, only just the two of us. I think it's probably the best way to do it, isn't it?
It is.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much.
So, Joanna, the textbook for this section is chapter 13
Yeah.
and starts on page 158. And so this is the continues from quite a lot of things going back there in your course, like job design, job description, recruitment, selection, interview, and now we've got the people, we call it induction. And so this PowerPoint says it here, and it is on the copies are on your handout. So we're saying, once we have got the right people to join you, now induction is where we make sure that they become productive quickly, get on with the job, and stay for a long time. We don't want to lose them,
Yeah, retaining them.
retain them. So that's really what this induction is all about. Now they talk quite a lot nowadays about induction and socialisation. And that's just on the first page of your textbook there, on page 158. What it's really saying is that we bring a person in to work for us, so they need to know what to do, what the work is, who the customers are, and all of this sort of thing, the procedures, and physically where everything is. But socialisation goes alongside that really, and that means so that they quickly get to know the other people and be able to work with them and talk to them comfortably,
Yeah.
sort of like an interpersonal thing. And quite often a lot of firms don't do that,
No.
or they don't do it very well.
Yeah, just the induction.
Yes, so some of them don't even do an induction. Sometimes they come, the poor person comes to start work on a Monday morning and the boss says, oh, I'd forgotten about you, better go and see Mary, she'll help you. Yeah. So there is that on page on page 159, the next page, it gives some detail about what happens with induction. So this is another way of looking at it. Page 159 tells us all about what induction is, and so really does this. This is a bit shorter, and so maybe it gets, maybe it helps us get to the nub of the matter. So, sorry, I'll come over this way. So what it's saying is that we're introducing the people to the organisation. Then we need to make sure they know about what their terms of employment are. So they should have legally an employment agreement, which is like a contract.
So on the induction, they already have signed a contract?
Yes, well, they may or may not have. Legally, you can send them an offer letter. You'll learn a little bit more about that later, possibly. An offer letter that says, Dear Jemima, thank you for coming into the interview. It was nice to meet with you. As we were talking about, we are pleased to offer you the position. And then you have to put 3 or 4 things that are very important, like salary and is it permanent, and just a short one. It can all fit on one page. Then a person needs a chance to negotiate the employment agreement. There might be some things in it that they're not quite so happy about. So that second stage where it says definition of the individual's terms of employment, that really means going over that and confirming it. So that's their employment agreement. Then you start the process of letting the employee know about the requirements of the job and how we expect them to show they are good at it or proficient at it. It's also an important stage where the employer and the employee need to understand each other's expectations, because an employer might be expecting something or thinking something that the employee doesn't really know about. In the same way, the other way around, the employee might be expecting something that the employer doesn't know about. So that all needs to be tidied up as soon as possible. So these are some more things that we expect to do in induction. We want to get the employee feeling confident that they can do the job and confident that they know their way around the organisation. Then we want to try and get everything all good so that the employee feels favourable about the organisation and are happy with it. If we can do that, they're more likely to stay. I'm not quite sure what the figures are, but quite a lot of people do leave organisations quite soon after they've been employed because they didn't quite know what they were going to find. Or they were ignored. And then this business of what was at the bottom one there, they're saying we bond and socialise the employees into the new work culture. Sometimes an employer can say, maybe if there's 2 or 3 people working in an office, making sure that the person's introduced to them and get to know a little bit about each other, and perhaps hopefully the people there might take them to the staff room for morning tea or something like that. Makes them feel part of the organisation. Still more things. Here we can talk about the difference between induction and socialisation, and that's really this piece here. It's the same piece. That's really talking about comparing the two, what induction is and what socialisation is. Now, the other thing to look at is quite a famous plan called the 9P approach. It's like a checklist of all the process, and each one of them starts with P. So page 161, right down the bottom. First of all, we give the new employees information and about the profile, what the organisation is and what it does. Policies and procedures, they need to know. The people, meeting lots of people. When people join this place, somebody usually brings them round to introduce them to everybody. It's very nice of them to do that, but they never remember them all, because by the time they've seen 3 or 4 or 5 people and they've got up to 20 or 30, there's a lot.
Also, they introduce to everyone.
Yeah, they try to. They don't get everybody, because somebody might be away or somebody might be teaching or
Even though if they don't work with the other departments, they still...
Good. Try to make them all one happy family.
Yeah. Nice.
Then there's number 4 is the places. That's where everything is. Where somebody's offices are, where the toilet is, where the staff room is, where you go to get something or get your mail or whatever. IT. Then there's plant and equipment. So in service organisations and office jobs, that's usually something like computers or photocopiers or something like that.
Yeah.
In a manufacturing organisation, it's machines and all this sort of thing. Processes. These days, so much is done with processes and procedures. Then details about the pay. This is where people need to make sure that they've got the person's tax code and the right code, and anything else that is needed for the pay slips, KiwiSaver, and there might be some deductions that they've signed up to, like a union deduction or something like that. Then the power, number 8 is power. Now that's, have you done organisation management? I can't remember. I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, it's all about, the power is all about who's the boss, and who's this boss, and who's this boss, and who's your boss. And
I did something similar, but in the Philippines.
8. Good.
OD.
There you go. And the last one on that page is problems. People need to know who they can go and talk to if there is a problem, what they should do. If it's a problem with the employment agreement, they would usually go to HR. If it was a problem with something, perhaps something that's not very good, like perhaps they're being harassed a bit or bullied a bit or something like that, you need to know who they can go and talk to about that.
So is it the manager who does the induction, or it's the HR?
Sometimes it is an HR person, and sometimes it is the manager, or sometimes the HR person will talk to the manager and get another member of staff to say, now can you please help with the introducing Mary, please can you talk to her about this, and then they tick it off. And I think I put an example on the handout somewhere. Usually firms use a checklist and they put down what has to be done, who's going to do it, and then a tick when they've done it. Checklist. Right, so I think there's a sample of a checklist on here. Let me have a look. Yes, here it is. On there? Yeah. So you see how there's timing, and they put in each thing that has to be done. First day, first week, first month. Who's responsible? Might be HR, might be manager, might be a staff member. When? And when it's done, tick.
So it goes for a month, the induction can go.
You hope to do most of it in a month, yes. Yeah. If you look over the next page, page 164 and 165, you'll see a slightly different checklist, but it does the same sort of thing. So this one looks as if it thinks it's to be 2 months, everything should be done. And so the question too is down a question is down the bottom of page 164. You must, the whole idea is you must have somebody responsible for doing it, who's going to do it. And one of the things here, the checklist I gave you says who's responsible, which is probably a good idea because this one doesn't actually say who's responsible. You need different people because this one and this one, for example, on these three, for every organisation usually has a health and safety officer. Yes, because they have one. And then in your textbook, at the bottom of page 166, there's start of a couple of pages about this business of socialisation. Sometimes it's called psychological or sometimes physical actions of joining the organisation. Socialisation is talking about joining psychologically, connecting with people.
Some of the emotions.
The emotional part of it, that's right. So sometimes they can be a little bit formal and get one or two people to talk to the new employee about something just for a little while, maybe a quarter of an hour, or a wee training session or something. Sometimes you can attach the person, they call this the apprenticeship, they attach the person to somebody for a while, and sometimes you can call them a mentor or a buddy. Sometimes they call it a buddy, and they have a buddy responsibility. Co-option, this means getting people suggesting that somebody that's already working there is willing to say to somebody, come and join us for something. We're having drinks after work, or we're having morning tea or something like that. And then the last one is, I don't think it's a very good one, but they call it mortification. They sort of make people do things. Don't like it.
It's like a fraternity.
Yes, it's not very. It's like, I don't know if it still happens, but you know what I mean when I talk about a boarding school, don't you? The students don't live at the school.
Yeah.
And when the new ones come, when they're young, they all get what they call hazed. They get made embarrassing things or things like that.
Just to be accepted in the group. Lately in the Philippines, there is a big news about there is this group or fraternity of law students. So it's a big one, and because they have the money, they have power, the family has power. And one of the members was killed by the other members.
Wow.
Now it's a big case in the Philippines about regarding fraternities in the universities.
Now that's terrible, isn't it, when that happens? And I think sometimes you do get problems in organisations where...
I didn't realize it may.
Well, it would be a large organisation that would happen, but sometimes, you know how you said at the school it was the rich kids,
Yeah.
sort of. Well, sometimes in an organisation it might be people that work in a department who think they are better than the other people. You know, I'm more important than you, so you have to. Then there's what we sometimes call a psychological contract between the person and the employer, and the people in the organisation. And the first thing is that you don't always get this in writing because it's not a policy or a procedure, but we talk about the organisation culture, or sometimes we call it the way we do things around here. It might sometimes be quite little things, but they mean quite a lot. Like it might be that in this organisation the men don't wear ties perhaps, or something like that. Or for the women they might say in this organisation we encourage women to wear office uniforms or something like that, you know. So that's this business of telling them a little bit about the organisation culture.
When it's your birthday, you have to shout everyone something like.
Exactly, exactly. This is probably a little bit outside our course really. It's really just showing that some of the big organisations do it really big. But then of course there's heaps and heaps of people. On the West Coast, most of the organisations are really quite small. Even the big organisations are really quite small. In the Philippines they'll be much bigger.
International corporation.
What's the population of the Philippines? Do you know? Do you know?
Around 100 million, somewhere in there.
20 times like New Zealand, isn't it? Yeah.
Very big.
Yes.
It's a little country. It's the same size as New Zealand, but it's islands.
Yes.
Different islands. Yeah, it's overpopulated.
Do you still have some quite small villages and things like that? Like in China, China's very populated, but there's still some quite small villages and things.
Yeah, there are some.
Yeah.
There are some cultures that are tribes.
Ah, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
tribes.
Now, some organisations actually have a thing called an induction pack, where they give you a booklet that sort of has everything in it. It shouldn't stop you having a checklist and having people to talk to you. And the other thing is, I think we've got one of these, I don't know if I've seen it or not, but I think we have a DVD that they give to people too, so that they can show things with a camera around. So, if we just check the back of this handout. If you keep turning, if you get to the back, there's a couple of wee extra articles there. Got that one? This one's talking about effective inductions. So they're saying some things are legal that they have to do, like it's essential that you employees know about health and safety procedures. That's the inspector comes around and asks the person, do you know about the fire exit or something like that? And the people don't know. The health inspectors could say, well, that's very bad. So there's a little bit of talk in that article about how important it is, and that if we can keep our employees happy, we can keep customers more happy, and that's good for everybody. Important to retaining customers. Then a little bit about when a person first comes. Feeding them of information. When I had just finished university and went to a job in the head office of a bank, they said there was a lot that had to be talked about, so they just did an hour each day. So on the first day, day one, the really important things like where the toilet is, where the staff room is, all that sort of thing. But then they just planned it, went on for quite a while. So there's a second page to that article there. And more things to think about, to be like a little bit like a checklist. Now that's pretty much, think what we will do with that. We'll rerun the high points of that when shall I just talk to you for a little bit about the assessment now?
Yeah.
What this is really about, as I think you can probably see, is that it's going through what we call the human resource planning process. It starts with analysing jobs, and way down here somewhere it finishes with rewards and payments and things, communities. But this one comes down to the end of induction, I think. Let me see if I know about that.
Pre-employment.
Yes, it's partly that. So if we go back to the start, there's the case study, Armtec. And so, first thing that the assessment is asking you is to produce some job documentation. So the first one is job analysis. The second one is asking you to discuss 3 barriers to effective job analysis. These are things I think you have done in this class, mostly. Then number 3 is discuss 2 reasons why it is important to consider how the job is designed. Then number 4, which is carrying quite a lot of marks, is where it's asking you to do the job description in the person specification. So you'd like to, if you have a chance between now and next week, go over some of those a little bit and tell me where perhaps you're not quite sure about something or something's missing. We can go over particularly this number 4 again, probably with you a little bit about job descriptions. Then the next bit, the big one, is recruitment and selection. So in the Rudman book and in your handouts from Coates, you will have in the articles quite a lot of different methods of recruitment. You remember when we talked about internal recruitment, people that, referrals, people, Auntie Mary's daughter or something? Yeah. And so it's asking you to suggest that and talk a little bit about each method as to whether it would be useful for this thing. Then selection criteria that you might use for shortlisting the research and development engineers at Teach. Then why you did this. Then you come down to number 8, the 3 methods of selection. Now one of those will be an interview, and one of them might be a reference check. So there's a bit of a list there that you'll find. And then it's asking you for a selection matrix. I'm pretty sure there's one of those in, that was the class you did, I think, before Kate went off. And then 2 pre-employment checks that you could use in this situation. One would be a reference. So are you happy just to read through that, and then when Janice comes back, I'll pick up, make sure you've got all the handouts to go with that. I think you have, but we'll keep that, and we can discuss some of the things, especially where it says it's asking you for 4 methods and asking you to discuss something. I think we'll do a little bit with that.
Research and development engineers. So this is just for one position. We cannot divide it as well.
I haven't used this one for a while. Right. Oh, well, yes, it's really talking about the people as a group.
That's what
I'll just check that. I'm sure that's how that works. yes, I thought that was okay. Now, what it might be easiest for you to, it doesn't actually say this, but it might be easiest to suggest that you're going to deal with quite a lot of engineers, and maybe rewrite their jobs and rewrite their descriptions and have them apply for their jobs. That's what it looks like. I think it says.
Or to recruit more.
Sorry? Yes, they want to recruit more engineers, I think. Yes, because they to recruit research and development engineers, they're going to have them perhaps in a different place or something like that. I think we're going to add to them by the look of it. Yes, it's going to be expanded, so they want more research and development engineers. Yep.
You need to do some overseas recruitment.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think if you're okay there, it's very short and sweet, but I think that's about the best thing to do. To be fair to you.
That's fine. Just need to, start this one.
If you're working around something and you'd like to find out a little bit more about it, or you've got a question, you can always send me an email.
I started when we started doing some research on
Yeah.
the job description for this.
I'll check with you next week that if you can bring your handouts that you've had for a little while, I'll check with you that you've got good handouts for job descriptions and things like that.
Yeah. I have.
I think you will. I think you've got models in there, yes.
The 9th of October now.
Yes.
The second.
Give you a bit longer.
Yeah. Give us 2 more weeks.
Yes. So, has it been raining hard in Hokitika too?
Oh no, I'm not from
No,
Hokitika.
you're not.
It's Janice from Hokitika. I just live nearby.
Live near where you work.
Yeah, I live near where I live. Just walk to, it's just the other side of the hospital.
Oh, yes, oh, they're all good.
Yeah, that side. But I broke my car this morning.
Oh.
It's a bit silly, but then it's thunder and lightning. I don't want to walk in the rain.
No, absolutely no.
Also, you're teaching other house Kate. Is she?
I haven't spoken to her today. She was just resting up a little bit for a couple of days last week, and I think I'll look into tomorrow. I think her mother's coming down to help her a little bit. So
Oh,
she's okay.
she's alive, so she's out from the hospital.
Yes.
You're taking over
Yeah.
her classes, all of her classes?
I am at the moment, yes.
You need some more tutor here, maybe?
Some more?
Tutor.
Oh! Oh, it's okay. It's not too bad.
Okay, makes you busy.
Ah, it is. It's not too bad.
Alright. Okay, see you next week.
See you next week.
Have a good night.
That's what all the Chinese, all the Chinese students used to say that, though. They say there, see you next time.
See you next time.
See you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for coming in.
Bye.
Bye.